Benjamin, running Training Express. If you look at the title of his presentation, Consumerization of Learning, which is totally into what we were discussing just before lunch here in this stream, a whole debate around technology, what to embrace, what to dislike, how much do you empower people to go and just find it out themselves, and how much do you kind of try and curate in terms of learning. We really don't know. We have ideas, and this gentleman has been thinking through that before, so he's going to share his insights. Benjamin.
Thank you. My name is Benjamin Joseph. I'm the CEO of the Training Express Group. We deliver language and soft skills training around the world to over 150,000 people. And today I'm going to talk about the consumerization of learning. I want to start with a detailed review of the last 3 decades of the profile of learners over history. And so I've got about 44 slides I'd like to walk you through. It's all right, guys. I'm only joking. It's good. How many of you thought I was going to be really boring? Can you lift up your hand? Right, good, okay. It's always good to start with low expectations, and then we can move forward from there. So this is interesting. Just for a minute, I want you to reflect on how long did it take you to judge me? We are here in theory to transfer knowledge, right? And I'm guessing it took you about 10 or 15 seconds to engage or disengage with me. So my question to you would be, how long does it take your learners, your internal clients, to engage or disengage with what you offer them? As I promised, or didn't promise, but I'm trying not to be boring as I started, I wanted to ask you guys a question before I begin, which is, does anybody here like champagne? Yeah? Any champagne? Can you raise your hand if you like champagne? Oh, good. Excellent. If you don't like champagne, do you have a friend who does? Okay, good. Well, in that case, you're in luck, because today you have the possibility of winning this wonderful bottle of champagne up here. And it's really very easy. What I'm going to do is I'm going to bring up a slide now, and there are 5 questions on the slide, right? And the first person to answer those 5 questions correctly is going to win this fantastic bottle of champagne to take home with them. Okay, so use whatever strategies you need to get the information you need to answer the questions that are coming up on the next slide. Okay? And remember, it's a race. So first one, hand in the air, gives me the right answers, takes the champagne away. Are you ready? Good. Use whatever you need to get the answers, guys. That's a good idea. I might have to tell you the answers if no one picks them up. You got 30 seconds more. Come on, guys. Can't be that difficult. Yeah, okay. We have a winner, potential winner over here. Fantastic. Your name is? Jodie, fantastic.
Hello. Jodie from the Global Fund.
Fantastic.
How many employees are there? We have 736 employees, 1,000 on site, but 736 actually belong to me. How many employees? does your number one competitor have? 0. I don't have any.
Ooh.
What was the value of 1 share? We don't have any shares, so 0. What are the key ingredients to whiskey sour? Whiskey, sugar water, and lemon juice. What is the yen? 0.88 today.
Fantastic. I think we have a winner. Congratulations. Jodie, your bottle of champagne. Enjoy. Thank you so much. Round of applause. Okay, so why am I giving champagne away? This is a question I ask myself regularly. Why are we doing this? Well, the reason was, if you look at this slide, 4 of the 5 questions probably relate to your company in some way, or could relate to your company, right? The whiskey sour is a bit of a curveball, but the other ones may all affect your company. Now, my question is, this is knowledge that is key to your company, and you are all looking and trying to answer these questions. Please raise your hand if you went to your corporate LMS. Okay. Right. Please raise your hand if you went to Google. Okay. Good. All right, so I want you to bear these 2 little experiments that we just did in mind. The first being how long it takes you to judge a learning offering, and the second one being where you go when you really need information. As we move into my topic, which is the consumerization of learning. I'll now introduce myself properly. I'm Benjamin Joseph. I'm the CEO of the Training Express Group. We deliver language training and soft skills training all over the world to many, many leading corporations. And we are a company, we're an edtech company that believe that human beings should be at the heart of the digital learning process. And rather than having technology which replaces human beings, we like to have technology which empowers those relationships between trainers and learners. And you'll see a little bit more of that as we move forward. But talking about the consumerization of learning, what does that actually mean? What is consumerization? Well, here you have the definition of consumerization. Consumerization is the reorientation of product and service designed to focus on and market to the end user as an individual consumer, in contrast with an earlier era of only organization-oriented offerings designed solely for the business to government markets. What a mouthful, right? What does that actually mean? Well, think about what happened with computers, with IBM, right? Computers were coming into the market through businesses and then filtering down into the consumer market. But then they realized, you know what? Consumers are going to adopt this technology much faster. And all of a sudden, the technology that's coming into the market started coming in through consumers, smartphones, mobiles, etc., and being adapted, right, to the corporate sector. And that's why you hear all this conversation about we need to adapt our learning to millennials, and they visit Facebook this many times, and they do that because we're not showing them the way anymore. We're not the first. They're the first ones, right? And we're adapting to them. So that is what consumerization is as a defined concept. So I have another question for you guys. Does anyone here have problems with engagement of their learners? No? Can you raise your hands if you have an engagement problem? Aha. Okay, good. Well, you're not the only ones. A recent study by Bursin, and you'll see me quoting Bursin by Deloitte, it's one of my favorite sources. You'll see this over and over again in this presentation. Says 66% of L&D people say they can't engage their learners as much as they'd like. In fact, only 18% say it's not a problem. So, why do you think this is? Why can't we engage learners? Do you think maybe these new millennials, maybe they're just not interested, right? Maybe they've got a low attention span, they've got better things to do, rather watch a video on YouTube. Any ideas why they don't engage? I would like to suggest that maybe one of the reasons these people don't engage is because we don't really understand how we need to treat the modern learner. Now, what is the modern learner? Well, I'm not going to answer that question for you. In fact, I'm going to give you, because you're all experts, and I'm not necessarily, so I think you should answer that question. I'm going to give you all 2 minutes on your tables, and I'd like you to tell me the 3 defining qualities of the modern learner, in your opinion. You've got exactly 2 minutes starting now. 3 defining qualities of the modern learner. All right, let's get some feedback here. I wonder if you'd be kind enough to bring the mic over here to, well, table 3, first of all. A chairman for table 3, characteristics of the modern learner.
I've done quite a lot of talking in this conference. What do we write down? Speed, impatience. Immediately actionable, and direct relevance.
Fantastic. Excellent. Thank you very much. Over here, please.
Merci. Overwhelmed, distracted, and impatient.
Fantastic. Another table.
Anywhere, anytime, and with purpose.
Fantastic. Good. Anyone have anything new they'd like to add over here? Yeah, for example?
Some have already been mentioned, but we've also got involved in the content, so having a say in it.
Yes.
And it to be IT related, so digital and not just face-to-face receiving information.
Fantastic. Anyone, any other tables feel they have anything different they need to contribute to our definition of modern learner? Okay, good, fantastic. I think everybody's on the same page, and it's something everybody's thinking about, and we're hearing the same things, you know, overwhelmed, they need something immediate, they need something with purpose, with direct application, they need something which comes to them when they need it in a digital environment, etc., etc. If we were to look at Deloitte's definition of the modern learner, then here you would have it, and it's very similar to what you were saying, right? Overwhelmed, checking their mobile phone maybe 9 times every hour, more in my case. They only have about 1% of their time available for L&D and development. They are incredibly distracted, etc., etc., right? So, you know, we now begin to understand what a modern learner is from your perspective, what a modern learner is from Deloitte's perspective, and I now want to share with you the modern learner I have at home, who is this chap, right? That's my son, and he wanted to make a lasagna, right? He loves lasagna, because I make a reasonable lasagna, so he loves lasagna, and he wanted to make a similar lasagna to my lasagna. Now my question to you is, what did he do? Exactly, thank you very much. Did he go to, you know, the shelf with the recipe books? No. Did he Google lasagna recipes? No. He did exactly what you said. Where did he go? YouTube. He went to YouTube and said, show me how to make a lasagna. And I have to say, he made a pretty good one. Unfortunately, I think there were no videos on how to clean the kitchen afterwards, from what I could gather, but the lasagna wasn't bad. So the question is, where do these modern learners go? Where did you go? Just now, when I asked you, you wanted to win the champagne, where did you go, right? Where did he go when he wanted to make a lasagna? Where are your learners going when they want to learn something, right? And the truth of the matter is, consumerization of learning has arrived, right? MOOCs are exploding. There's 4 times more enrollment this year than there was last year. Self-authored video is now 50% of internet traffic. All of the on-demand mentoring and coaching sites are exploding. There is a huge range of places where your learners can go to get the information they need. And that means that there has been a quantum shift, right? From the learning situation as it was before and the learning situation as it is today. And that shift is, you've got competition, right? Before, when people wanted to learn, they really didn't have that many options. They went to L&D. Now, they can go to a lot of different places. According to a study by Skilled Up, over 43% of professionals look for development opportunities outside of their work, and a lot of them do 8 or 9 different development events in the course of a year. So what this basically means is L&D is offering in this consumerized world, learning opportunities, but the truth of the matter is learners aren't buying what L&D is selling. Right? I come from a sales and marketing background, and one of the things I wanted to share with you today was what sales and marketing tools can we use to boost engagement? Because the truth of the matter is these guys have a choice, and they're not always choosing what they should. So learners aren't buying what L&D is selling. What can we do about that? Can we force them to buy it? Right? Can we obligate it, make it part of their, obligatory competencies that they have to learn and they have to go through? We could. Huh? Bottles of champagne works, yeah? But I would like to suggest that what we have here is a sales and marketing problem, right? And the problem we have is that we're not effectively selling our learning offering in the way that modern consumers buy. And that what we need to do is to use some of our sales and marketing techniques to be able to sell our offerings more effectively. So fortunately, sales and marketing is something I know a little bit about, and I thought it would be interesting to think about, okay, what are the golden rules of sales and marketing, and how can they apply to all of you in L&D to boost engagement? So what are the golden rules? Rule number 1, know your client. Rule number 2, communicate your message clearly and educate your customer. Rule number 3, offer solutions that are aligned with customers' needs. So let's take a look at each of these and how it affects L&D. Well, the first one is know your client. The bad news is you guys have got a bit of a problem because you don't have one client, you've got 3, right? You need to sell down to the learners, but you need to sell up to get the executives involved, and you need to convince the line managers that this training is going to be good, right? And this is called multipronged marketing. It means you have to focus from various points to get an action to take place. This is why Tiffany's advertises wedding rings to men as well as women, or why snack products are advertised to kids on TV but promoted to adults in store. Right? We've got a similar thing. We need to convince the learners that this is good for them, but we also want to get the down pressure from the executive level who are backing us up, giving us the funding, promoting this, making it a priority, and also generating the culture where this learning becomes part of the civilization. And finally, you've got the line managers, right? So if you look at each of these very quickly, I think we've spoken about the modern learner. The one thing I would like to highlight here is fewer than 33% of L&D organizations often truly understand their learner. And it's not only what they need, but it's about how they learn. What style of learners are they? Are they cognitive? Are they visual? Right? What kind of resources are best for them? And I think one of the big things that I see with my clients when we look at these problems is it's not always about telling the learner what they need to learn. A lot of the time it's also about educating them about how they need to learn and about why what you're proposing is a better route for them than some other route they could find outside of that environment. So you become an expert advisor, right? Well, with executives, I think you all know this, but at least if I look at a lot of the companies I work with, they're probably not interested in the theory behind all of the learning process. They want to know about the impact. Okay, well, if these guys learn, what's the bottom line on my P&L? What's the bottom line on my results? We need to be able to communicate effectively with executives about the impact of the learning, not the learning process itself. And finally, and this is, by the way, measuring what matters to CEOs about learning. So you can see, it's a big study, you can see that impact is number one. And finally, we need to get the managers involved, right? And make sure that they make space for their employees and they encourage the people who work with them in their teams to take advantage of these learning events. So that's number one. Number two, communicate your message clearly and educate your customer. Well, here's an interesting fact. Think about the way people buy today. Have you been to an espresso store? Yeah? Been to the Apple store, right? The modern consumer is 53% of the way through his buying journey before he engages with any kind of rep, right? And that means that you guys need to reach the learner long before they come and ask for some kind of development opportunity. You need to be proactively educating them about all of the opportunities they have to develop and to grow long before they actually arrive and say, hey, I need this, right? So that's just one lesson we can take from there. Another interesting thing is consumers buy on emotion and justify with reason. What do I mean by that? I've got a friend, an old friend, Jack, lovely guy, and I invited him over for lunch the other day. And he came along, he drove up in this beautiful brand new BMW convertible. Red, shining wheels, the works. And I'm like, oh, that's a nice car, Jack. And he was like, oh, yeah, do you like it? I said, yeah. I said, why did you buy that? He said, well, it's got 10 cubic liters more of boot space than the Audi. I'm like, okay, that's why you bought a BMW convertible, because it's got 10 cubic liters more of boot space, right? Obviously, that's not why he bought it, right? But he had justified to himself the airbags, the consumption. He made a proper decision, right? And this happens over and over and over again in sales. People buy on emotion, and then they justify it with the reasons for that decision, right? How does that affect you in L&D? What emotion do we need to provoke in our learners to ensure that they buy what we want them to, and they buy our offering? Well, I would suggest to you that, we're all here in this conference. We all work in learning, right? And we probably could have chosen to be bankers or stockbrokers or whatever it was. I mean, we might have made a lot more money, but we actually believe that we can better people's lives through what we do, and I think that's very important. And I think the message that you need to transmit to your learners is, we can help you live a bigger and better and fuller life. This can, by learning through what we offer, you can achieve a whole new series of goals and you can live a more fulfilling existence. That's the emotional underlay that we need to transmit, right? And in fact, one very interesting piece is this piece of data, which is key, which comes from the US Bureau of Labor Statistics, which shows that the learning curve is the earning curve. Or in other words, the more you learn, the more you earn, right? And this is a pretty simple motivator, right, which is, I think, good to include in the way we transmit this. But again, remembering the emotional impact that we need to deliver to learners to get them bought in. So, help your learners navigate alternatives, be experts and curators, teach them how to learn, not only what to learn, inform them about the most recent trends, educate them about line mans, and inspire them about the value of the learning events and the impact that's going to have on their lives as well. Third rule, offer solutions that are aligned with customers' needs, right? Seems pretty obvious, yeah? But funnily enough, according to a recent study by Workplace Trends, only 15% of employees feel like the training they receive actually has any real bearing on what they do. And it is about what people need, and it's also about what people want and what they're going to buy into. And I would like just to pause for a minute and reflect on everything we've heard over the last 2 days about technology. right? And everything it's all about, we have to make everything available through all the latest technological channels. It has to be on demand, it has to be digital, it has to be just in time. And the modern learner is incredibly busy, right? And, as we've noticed that they're overwhelmed, we heard over here, right? And as Socrates said, beware the barrenness of a busy life. And the busier you are, the more distracted you often become. I've got another question for you. Let's see who's the fastest. What do all these companies have in common? They are exponential. They've been rocketing, haven't they? Anything else? They're disruptors? Thank you! Genius. Round of applause, please. So that's genius. Thank you very much. Exactly. That is exactly what they do. All of these companies connect people, right? And I believe that if you really want to get traction in your learning, you need to do the same thing. What we have been aiming to do as an organization ourselves for many years, you have Facebook, which connects friends, eBay, those who want to buy and those who want to sell, Uber, those who want to drive and those who want to be driven, Tinder, I won't go into, LinkedIn, etc., etc. And what we've been trying to do for many years is to connect those who want to learn and those who want to teach. And if you want to drive engagement, including some kind of human element in what you do is absolutely critical. In fact, in a study we have of 350,000 of our learners, what we found is if you include any kind of human element, you boost engagement by 4. And a lot of you are thinking, yeah, but that's going to be really expensive and we can't do that and whatever. But what I would say to you is, when I'm talking about that, think about a figure, right, which could be, call them what you want, a mentor, a motivator, a counselor, and it could be as little as 1 hour of their time a year. And they call up and they say, oh, hi, Diana, I'm really excited you're now on our LMS, and I've been looking at your profile, and I've selected these 3 courses for you that I think could be really great and would really help you move to the next level. Why don't you go online, have a look, and just write back to me if you've got any problems. Let's set your objective for the next 3 months. And then Diana hopefully goes online, right? And she does one of the courses because it looks a little bit interesting. And then she gets an email saying, hey, congratulations! I saw you did that course on, safety in the workplace. That was fantastic. Well done. Go and do the next module because that could really help you, right? And you just have this basically it's someone who keeps you company on the journey and holds your hand and who recognizes your learning steps and who recognizes your progress. And I repeat, we have programs where it's as little as 1 hour of somebody's time a year. A couple of phone calls, an email, and you will get 4 times the engagement that you would get from simply putting those resources online and hoping that people will use them. So in the era of consumerization, you have this idea of stop trying to command and control and start empowering. And this is the difference between what we might call managed learning and empowered learning. Obviously, there's some learning that you have to manage, compliance, safety, right? You don't have a lot of choice. You've got to put people through that one way or another. But with all of the other things, what you need to do is to be empowering people, giving them resources, giving them the choice, giving them the tools, and letting them make that step. Because hopefully, you've pushed their emotional trigger. You've caught them early on in their journey, and you've transmitted to them the value that your learning offering has and the impact that will have on their life. This is just a lovely quote from Janice Burns, Chief Learning Officer of MasterCard. We play the role of facilitator and motivators more than anything else. And finally, of course, and I think you guys all know this, you need to invest in new ways of delivery. So this is, again, according to Deloitte, the higher impact L&D organizations obviously offering more on demand, less traditional ILT, less traditional e-learning, and more on-the-job experiences and collaboration. So if you do these things, you should be in a good position to sell your offerings more effectively using some of these sales and marketing techniques. But obviously, your vendors also need to adjust. So you need to demand different things from the partners who are helping you, including more flexibility, more granularized, shorter micro-learning opportunities, different mediums of delivery, and support in the marketing and communication. We've worked with a lot of our clients on the internal communication of what is this going to look like, especially when there's a cultural shift, right? So maybe you're moving from an approach which was mainly face-to-face, and now you want to do something which is virtual. Now, the way you communicate that and the internal communication plan around that will have an enormous impact on how that is received, right? And it could be received by, oh no, they're giving me online. I don't like online, right? Which is what a lot of people think, right? Or it could be transmitted in a different way and communicated in a different way, which makes people feel like they're stepping in to a new era of opportunity and progress. Other than that, obviously, we've spoken about the human element, and one thing that we see emerging now, which I've been speaking to a number of you about, and they've been fascinating conversations, is this idea of what we would call a B2B2C model, where effectively your learners could have a series of credits, and they would be able to choose where they develop and how they develop through a catalog of different learning events, and really be able to define their own learning paths and choose the best way for them to progress, obviously with the guidance and support that only experts like yourselves can give them. So to summarize, know your client. It's the modern learner. We all remember him, right? So know your client, the modern learner. Communicate your message clearly and educate your customer. Tell them not only what they need to learn, but how they need to learn, and why what you're offering them is better than what they can find through many of the other channels they have available. And offer solutions that are aligned with customer needs, so just in time, on demand, virtual, digital, etc., etc., etc. And if there is just one thing that you take away from this talk, I would ask you, in this era of digital insanity for many of us, please remember that the most important thing you can do is empower the creation of transformative relationships between trainers and learners, because that is the way that we have learned since the times of Socrates. Thank you.